Plus.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nana, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Thursday night, and this is Farage at live from Newport. Please welcome your host, Nigel Farage.
Well, good evening. We have a live audience in Newport. We'll be talking all things banking. This is not a bubble story. It's to take in real people's lives. We'll also talk local Welsh politics, 20-mile-an-hour speed limits. We'll talk about the steel industry. It's great history here, but what future does it have in the age of net zero? And joining me for Talking Pints, South Wales hero Simon Weston. But before all of that, let's get the news with Polly Middlehurst.
Thank you very much, Nigel. Polly is having a well-earned rest, but it's me, Rory Smith. The group CEO of NatWest, which includes Coutts, has apologised to Nigel Farage after his account was closed. Dame Alison Rose apologises for what she calls deeply inappropriate comments made about Mr Farage in the now published papers. She continued saying it is not the company's policy to drop a customer on the basis of legally held political and personal views. A full review of Coutts' processes and how these decisions are made will be carried out. The illegal migration bill has become law. It will prevent people from claiming asylum in the UK if they arrive through unauthorised means. The government also hopes the changes will ensure detained people are removed either to their home country or to a third country. The government says the focus is now on appealing to the Supreme Court to make Rwanda one of the countries people can be sent to. Strikes by health workers could end up costing hospitals billions of pounds. That's according to Matthew Taylor, the head of the body that represents NHS organisations. He says they're on red alert for the next 48 hours as senior doctors walk out over pay. He also says health leaders are deeply concerned by the impact that strikes are having. But Health Secretary Steve Barclay says they have listened to the BMA's demands.
Average NHS earnings of a consultant after this pay rise will be £134,000 a year, and on top of that 20% of their salary goes into their pension, which means they'll be able to earn when they retire by the age of 65 tax-free up to £60,000 a year. The number one ask of the BMA was for pension tax reform, and we listened to that ask, we acted on it, and in addition we've also accepted in full the independent pay review body recommendations.
Up to 20,000 rail staff are on strike over job security and pay, causing disruption and cancellations across many services. It's the first of 3 days of industrial action affecting 14 train companies in England, which may have a knock-on effect into Scotland and Wales. Well, members are also walking out on the 22nd and 29th of July. Supermarkets are not displaying prices as clearly as they should be, preventing shoppers from finding the best deals. The Competition and Markets Authority has found retailers could be hampering people's ability to compare products. The watchdog is warning supermarkets to make the necessary changes or risk facing enforcement action. TV, online, DAB+ radio and on TuneIn. This is GB News. Now though, back to Nigel.
Newport, South Wales, with a live audience. Since I spoke out a couple of weeks ago about the way I've been treated by Coutts, a subsidiary of NatWest Bank, the public reaction has been truly astonishing. I've asked people, please come forward and tell me whether you've got a problem with your bank. We booked this venue some time ago, but would you believe this venue, this club, that has banked with NatWest for 55 years, currently has its accounts suspended? You see, what I've learnt is this is not just about me, far, far from it. And it's not just about other political figures. It's about thousands of people all over this country, summarily having their bank accounts, both personal and business, closed. And that's why I decided to go public. I have to say, never before in my public life career have I put my head over the parapet and received such support. I'm supposed to be a Marmite figure. Half the country is supposed to hate me. Well, some still do, but there's an awful lot who might not agree with me on borders or Brexit, but who are genuinely worried about this issue, and they're right to be. Because if they can do it to me, they can do it to you. And if we finish up with social media checks on the bank accounts of every individual in this country, goodness knows we'll finish up with a Chinese-style social credit system. So that's why I've decided to fight. And I must say, the reaction from the Conservative government on this, if not much else, has been pretty extraordinary and very, very rapid. And after the promises of the last 2 days, this evening we got a Treasury statement. The government has stepped in to address fears that banks are terminating accounts because they disagree with someone's political beliefs. Banks will now be required to give people at least 90 days' notice before closing an account, and crucially, they'll be required to spell out why they are terminating bank accounts. And the Economic Secretary of the Treasury, Andrew Griffith, who I have to say has been enormously helpful over the last few days, he says simply, and he's right, freedom of speech is a cornerstone of our democracy and it must be respected by all institutions. Well, hear, hear to that, as indeed Elon Musk himself said on Twitter last night. Shortly after this, a letter was published. It was sent to me on email and then published more widely, and it comes from Dame Alison Rose, the Group Chief Executive Officer of the NatWest Group. Remember, this bank that has 19 million customers. Dear Mr. Farage, I am writing to apologise for the deeply inappropriate comments about yourself made in the now published papers prepared for the Wealth Committee. I would like to make it clear
they do not reflect the view of the bank. I believe very strongly that freedom of expression and access to banking are fundamental to our society, and it is absolutely not our policy to exit a customer on the basis of legally held political and personal views. To this end, I would also like to personally reiterate our offer to you of alternative banking arrangements at NatWest. I fully understand yours and the public's concern that the processes for bank account closure are not sufficiently transparent. Customers have a right to expect their bank to make consistent decisions against publicly available criteria, and those decisions should be communicated clearly and openly with them within the constraints imposed by the law. To achieve this, sector-wide change is required, but your experience, highlighted in recent days, has shown we need to also put our own processes under scrutiny too. As a result, I am commissioning a full review of the Coutts processes for how these decisions are made and communicated to ensure we provide better, clearer and more consistent experience for customers in the future. The review will be reporting to me as NatWest Group CEO. I welcome the FCA's reviews of regulatory rules associated with politically exposed persons, and we will implement the recommendations of our review alongside any changes that they or the government makes to the overall regulatory framework. Yours sincerely, Alison Rose. Well, how do I respond to that? Well, of course, in life, it's always good to get an apology. So thank you, Dame Alison, for apologising. But I can't help feeling that the Treasury statement that preceded what you put out, and what I've actually been told, quietly, privately, is that you were forced into doing this by the Treasury. But at least you've done it, I suppose. But the whole letter smacks of not me, Gov. Not me, Gov. I'm just the chief executive. I mean, don't blame me for what the banks under my direct control are doing. And when you say that, and there was some pretty vile stuff written that I got back through that subject access report. When you say that this does not reflect the views of the bank, no, actually it does. It really does genuinely reflect the views of the bank. And let's remember, Dame Alison, you call it the Wealth Committee. Its real name is the Reputational Risk and Wealth Committee, and it was set up following your diversity review. So it is in many ways actually your committee. Now, you do say that there's a reiteration of the offer to give me NatWest services. This offer was made verbally to me just before I went on air on GB News a couple of weeks ago. But I got to ask you, does this include business accounts? Because last time round it was simply a personal account, and I was told no solution had been found to my business problems. I also wonder, if I go to NatWest, how long will it be before they close me down? Because there's no guarantee that they'll keep me as a customer, and that does genuinely concern me. You know, it really, really does. Yes, OK, you say you understand people's and the public's concern. I'll tell you what you should be focusing on. The 10,000 people who formed together in a Facebook group of cancelled NatWest customers. That's where your focus should be. The outrageous, disgusting way in which you're making men and women who are going about their lives, trying to set up small businesses, you're making their life a complete and total misery. And that's where the focus should be. And it's all well and good to talk about reforms in the future. What about the thousands that have suffered already? Well, my advice to those thousands is please put in your subject access request to this bank. Find out what information they've got on you. Find out why they closed you down. For me to go public on this is, of course, embarrassing. It's embarrassing to say publicly that your bank has shut you out. I don't know what it does to my credit rating going on from here. And also, for the contents of that subject access report, for all of those appalling, untrue, and in many cases, libelous stories that have been beaten in court to be published all over the daily newspapers. I mean, you know, it wasn't something that I enjoyed doing. Didn't enjoy it one bit. I could have just walked away, but I didn't do it because I think someone needs to be a voice for those thousands, maybe tens of thousands of people who've been treated so horrifically by the banks, including yours. Someone needs to stand up for them. Someone needs to be their champion. And I'm delighted that the Treasury and the government are acting. I hope the FCA move in short order too. But I'm afraid I can't just walk away from this. I've started this and I've got to continue. So thank you for the apology. It's a start, but it's no more than that. Oh, sorry, I almost forgot. On the 3rd of July, you were having dinner, sitting next to the BBC's economics correspondent, Simon Jack. And a funny thing happened, you know. At 10 o'clock the next morning, Simon Jack rang me. And he told me that the reason my account had been cancelled is that I didn't have enough money in the account. And that anyway, what was the problem? Because I'd been offered NatWest accounts. The BBC put that out, and many in the media accepted that version. Mr. Jack, for some reason, seems to have gone to ground today and hasn't backtracked from it. Can I ask you, Dame Alison, was it you that breached my private client banking confidentiality? Yeah. Was it you that told Simon Jack that? Well, I'm going to find out, because today I put in another subject access request, this time to NatWest Bank, and I'm in particular looking for any personal correspondence, Dame Rose, that concerns me. So in 30 days' time, we'll know the absolute truth. That's it from me. We'll take a short break and be back in just a moment.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nah, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
countries, we always find that there are local issues that also resonate at a national level. And I can promise you there are plenty of them here in Newport. I'm joined by Councillor Matthew Evans, MBE, Conservative councillor, leader of the Conservative opposition here in Newport, and veteran of local government. You've been doing it for a quarter of a century. Do you still enjoy it?
Well, I do, yeah. I mean, it sounds a long time, 25 years, but it's been an incredible experience. I've enjoyed it. We've had good times, bad times, but yeah, I still enjoy it. To make a difference to just one or two people is always satisfactory, and yeah.
Now, obviously, we associate Wales very predominantly with the Labour Party, going back to the very birth of the Labour Party, actually. Yeah. But in the last few years, in parts of Wales, the Conservatives have made some quite big gains. Are they going to hold those seats?
Well, going back to the general election of 2019, I stood in Newport West. Bearing in mind it's been Labour for the last 50 years in Newport and Wales, and I got 18,000 votes, which is virtually unheard of, a combination of factors at the time. But I think moving forward, yeah, it's a tough time at the moment, and
you could say that as a Conservative.
I will see. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you can get plenty of people on here who will want to attack the government. But I was elected last year under a Conservative manifesto, and I will continue to fight within the party to address the current issues which are affecting a lot of people in Newport.
Now, big local issues here, but big local issues virtually everywhere in the country. Traffic. The bridge.
The Severn Bridge, the M4.
Yep. And it can be a nightmare, can't it?
It's an absolute nightmare, yeah.
I mean, coming over the... I know certainly coming across and the queues at rush hour to get into Cardiff and to Newport, I mean, it just isn't working. But there is a proposal, isn't there, on the ground, that has been for years, for an M4 relief road. Where have we got to with that?
Well, sadly, I mean, we've been talking about this since I've been a councillor.
Yeah,
we've had death by consultation. They spent £150 million. It's a Welsh Labour manifesto pledge. At the end of the day, they just decided they weren't going ahead, despite the fact we had an independent inquiry costing tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of pounds. And it is embarrassing because, welcome to Wales, people get stuck before they get to the tunnels. The M4 relief road would have at least tried to alleviate that. And don't forget, people just say it's not just motorists, it's the economy as far as lorries.
Yeah.
Buses and coaches use motorways and roads. So, and as soon as we get to the M4 accident, something like that, the whole of Newport becomes gridlocked, and that affects everybody's lives.
So is there any prospect of this changing?
Not with the Labour government, I can assure you. It's been firmly kicked in the long grass.
Well, OK, I'll buy that one for a moment. But because it's interesting, I mean, Stonehenge, a couple of 100 miles up the road, it's taken them 30 years to agree to build a tunnel. Things take a long time. Now, one of my sort of, pet gripes on this show is the way that motorists are being treated. Cameras going up everywhere, people being fined more than they ever have been in their lives. But the one that drives me crackers is the 20-mile-an-hour zone. Now,
welcome to Newport. Yeah.
And I mean, I get it. Between 8 and 9 in the morning outside a primary school, I think 20 miles an hour is a sensible limit.
Yeah.
No question about that. And you can do that with speed bumps anyway, it seems to me, without cameras. But what is the current proposal for Wales?
Well, I know as far as Newport goes, well, the whole of Wales is spending £23 million on this scheme. My local road is already a 20 mile an hour, and I think you've probably got about 20% compliance. The speed camera vans are up there all the time, and when that's rolled over across the city, you're not going to be able to get a place on a speed awareness course because the backlog will be for years. I mean, it's just going to be...
But the plan is to roll this out across the whole of Wales,
The whole of Wales, yeah, exactly. And it's, as you say, outside primary schools or an accident, but it's just incredibly difficult to drive at 20 miles an hour.
Trouble is, Matthew, that, you can say Labour do all these things, and I look around the country and there's a big battle on the Eulers extension going on with Greater London at the moment, and you can say Labour are doing all these things, but actually the Conservatives, with their green agenda, have up until now been supporting all of this.
Well, all I can comment about is what's happening in Wales. I mean, we've had a Labour government since the last 25 years. They're responsible for health, they're responsible for education, they're responsible for the economy, the environment, and those are the decisions which they are taking in Wales. And we've got a Labour council in Newport. They're the ones taking decisions here. I can't comment about what's happening in other parts of the UK.
All I'm saying is that, you know, the rush to net zero, the green agenda, it's something that David Cameron adopted, and there's really not been much between the parties on this. Another big issue, it's down the road, but the siege that is going on at the migrant hotel site in Llanelli. Quite extraordinary scenes. You know, in the last 3 days, another 1,000 young men have crossed the English Channel. This pressure's being put on everywhere. I mean, I've seen Llanelli, but is this a big debate in Wales or not?
It is a big debate, and the UK government is doing its best at the moment, I'm sure, with the new...
It's not doing very well, is it?
Well, you know, I mean, we've got the courts. Everything is kept, you know, the courts they've got problems with the courts.
Yeah.
They're trying it. They've got a target to reduce them, and ultimately they will, at the next general election, they will be... You know, what are the Labour alternatives? What have Labour said they're going to do about it?
Nothing.
Nothing at all. So, you know...
Well, one of the things I said was I felt we should leave the European Court of Human Rights, the European Convention. We should be free of that.
Yeah.
Interestingly, the charge sheet against me from Coutts and why I should be debanked included leaving the ECHR, but I can't really work that out. We'll see. The government's in a mess over it. Labour have no alternatives, and I get that, and I fully understand that. Now, what I do know, Matthew, is, you know, we've launched this big campaign, and it's interesting, isn't it, that my banking stuff came afterwards, but GB News already had put together this Don't Kill Cash campaign. We've got about 220,000 people that have signed up to it already. And I know you're a big supporter of it. Just tell us why.
Well, several reasons, really. I mean, I haven't got a credit card, and I don't like everybody knowing what I spend my money on. Nothing illegal or anything, but I really want to ensure that...
You are sure about that?
Yeah, absolutely, thank you. And we should have a choice, and there are a lot of elderly people who don't have that, and if you had a card and you suddenly went out somewhere it's card only, and it didn't work or something, then you're left stranded. So it's all about freedom of choice to me, and ensuring the elderly people, if they want to just use cash, like I do from time to time, they should be allowed to do it. And I think it's absolutely nonsensical that we're going down that route.
I think it's scary, actually. There was a very, very good cartoon in the Telegraph today, and it was a big poster. Big banker is watching you. But that's what worries me with digitalised money. That they can control, you know, they can control what we spend our money on. No, it's a great campaign. Matthew, thank you for quarter of a century in local government. Thank you for joining us tonight on GB News.
Pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Now, we are living in an age of increasing street protests. At the top of the tree at the moment appear to be a group called Just Stop Oil, who want to stop horse racing, tennis, cricket, snooker, vandalise art, you name it. But extraordinarily, there's now a counter group, and you can see them on your screens. They're called Just Stop Peeing Off Everyone. And they are dressed in similar colours, and you can see there that effectively what they've done is to surround a group of Just Stop Oil protesters on the streets of London. And I think it's funny, but it's important to reiterate what I said to you last night when we saw an example of somebody actually kicking and punching a Just Stop Oil protester. Two wrongs don't make a right. So if people can respond peacefully and with a degree of humour, that, I think, is a very, very good thing. Personally, I've absolutely had it up to here with Just Stop Oil. They bore the life out of me. Now, steel matters in South Wales, matters in Newport. I'm very pleased to say that Gareth Stace is the Director General of UK Steel and joins me on the programme. Gareth, for those not familiar with Newport and South Wales, just briefly, give us the history of steel making here.
Oh, so steel making in Wales, you know, steel is so important to the Welsh economy now, but, you know, in the past we think of Llanwern, which is long closed, employed 10,000 people just in Llanwern, and that's closed.
Yeah.
The steel sector in the UK used to employ 240,000 people. It now employs about 31,000, but about 8,000 of those still work in Wales. And the really important thing about this is those jobs are good jobs. They're highly skilled and they're well paid. And well paid 60% more, the wages for a steelworker, 60% more than the average wage in Wales.
So the jobs matter.
Yes.
The jobs matter. But an industry in decline, is it an industry that can be saved? Is it an industry that could be regenerated? And I ask this in the light, particularly, of net zero implications. There is a government plan to decarbonise steelmaking. Is that even possible?
Well, it's certainly possible. An industry in decline, yes, in the UK, globally, not at all.
No, sure.
The demand for steel increases year on year on year. You asked, could it be saved?
Yeah.
Yes, there are sunny uplands. You know, the demand in the UK for steel will increase. The demand globally will increase. So why every year do we produce less and less and less steel? Last year we produced 6 million tonnes. The last time we produced 6 million tonnes was in 1932. You know, literally in the Great Depression. China produces 1,000 million tonnes a year. They make what we make in a year. They make it in just over 2 days. So all we need to do in the UK to become competitive again is for government to say, yes, we want a steel sector in the UK.
Is steel, should it be deemed to be, in your view, a strategic industry?
Well, it certainly is a strategic industry. Look, in a modern economy, everything is made either from steel or made using steel. You can't do without steel.
No, but here's the problem.
Economy.
Here is the problem, Gareth, that we have a Conservative government and a Labour opposition hell-bent on net zero, hell-bent on reducing our carbon dioxide output. They boast to the world, we've reduced by 44% since 1990. Of course we have. The steel plants have closed, they've gone to India and China, the steel is produced under lower environmental standards, and then we import it back into Britain. Why does nobody in government listen to these arguments?
So exactly. I mean, India's going to double its steelmaking capacity in the next 15 years. So why does the government listen? What they've done for the last decade and more, all governments, not just this Conservative government, is pile costs on us that aren't paid by our competitors. This will make you fall off your chair, Nigel. 90% of the world's steel pays no carbon tax. We are that 10% that does pay a carbon tax.
Yeah.
But we want to decarbonise because there is a massive opportunity for net zero steel, to sell net zero steel. A year ago last week, we said to government, here's our roadmap to get to net zero. We can only do it with a partnership with you, government, if you provide half of the capex to get us there, half of the money to get us on that journey, like other governments are doing, like France and Germany and Canada. They're all providing billions and billions. Our government isn't doing that. It's helping, yes, but we need that partnership for the capex to get us to net zero, and then, crucially, we need a competitive business landscape so we can compete in Europe and globally, so we can go from 6 million tonnes to satisfying what we actually demand in the UK, which is like 11 million tonnes a year, to that, and then the world is our oyster to make even more steel and export it across the world because there'll be net zero
I'd
steel.
love to see us do it. Final thought on this. We're putting up wind turbines all around our oceans. I'm slightly sceptical about this, but they're all manufactured in China.
So,
why can't we do this?
So, 1,200 tonnes on each tower.
Yep.
What's the percentage of steel that comes from the UK in each of those towers? You know the answer, you just said it to me. Zero. Yeah. But we're the world leader in offshore wind. Why is it no steel from the UK there? Because they let the contractors go out and buy the steel for themselves, and they buy it where it's the cheapest on that day, but they don't work with the sector to say, well, we want this type of steel over this many years, can we work with you to produce it?
I have to say, Gareth, it is illogical, it makes no sense. None of what we're doing is reducing global CO2 in any way at all, and you've got an industry straddled with very expensive energy costs. And I have to say, I'm very much in your corner. The arguments are logical, the arguments are right. I just hope people in Westminster wake up, please, because this matters. Gareth, thank you very much indeed for joining us. And in a moment, it'll be the public's turn. After the break, it's Farage to Farage with questions direct to me. Woo! Thank you very much. Cheers. It's also...
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening. from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the live desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views, and often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard. We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often there will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
The best part of the show. This is the public. They've submitted their questions. They've been filtered out. I haven't got a clue what they're going to ask me, starting with Alison.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hiya. Just wanted to know if you could choose the next Prime Minister and the next Home Secretary, who would it be and why?
Well, actually, I think the current Home Secretary shows a bit of spirit.
Yes, agreed.
I really, really do. And I thought her comments in support of me yesterday were really strong and really to the mark. She pointed out that this inclusion agenda is only if you agree with them. If you don't agree with them, you're excluded, or in my case, excommunicated. So, you know, she was very, very good on that. As for the next Prime Minister, honestly, I just don't know. I mean, it's going to be Keir Starmer. I think that's, you know, very, very likely that it will be Keir. And I just don't see, I just don't see how the Conservatives can recover. There's so much faith being lost in them, so many promises made that they never really believed in. So I guess it'll be Keir Starmer. Who would you like?
Nigel Farage.
Oh, well, there we are. Thank you. Very sweet of you, Alison. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you, but I'm much too busy fighting the banking industry just at this moment in time. OK, let's keep going. My next questioner is Mandy. Good evening.
Hello. Living in the Republic of Drakeford, as we do you think devolution has been a good thing?
Well, it's very interesting, actually, isn't it, that when the Welsh Assembly was set up, there was very little support for it. You know, only 1 in 4 people in Wales who could vote actually voted for it. They scraped it through by 7,000 votes, if I remember rightly. Look, the idea that people should have local decision-making is, of course, very sensible.
But I don't think the Welsh Assembly, the Senedd Parliament, as it now is, I don't think it's been a great success. And frankly, I think that Drakeford is, well, dreadful, truly dreadful. I mean, the lockdowns, the state control, the 20-mile-an-hour speeding limit. So I'm not against the principle of devolution, but has it worked out well for Wales to date? I think the answer's no. Yeah, but I mean, I can't see it being reversed. Can you?
No, but I think the pandemic taught us that you can't have devolution for national issues like crises like that. It needs to come from national government. You can't have Ireland doing one thing, Scotland doing another thing, Wales
and the
doing
Mayor of Manchester saying something else, and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I just wonder, quick thought on that. I just wonder whether, whether the Welsh MPs in Westminster couldn't come back and sit in the Senedd rather than having two layers of politicians.
Wow.
It's a thought. It's a thought. But I think, Mandy, if we were in Scotland, quite a lot of people would feel the same way too. Thank you very much indeed. Let us go to Stephen. Stephen.
Evening, Nigel. I've been allowed two, so I'm quite fortunate. The first one, perhaps it links to what talk about the steel industry.
Yep.
Given the recent comments of the chief executive of Shell that they would potentially consider relisting in New York, now what can we do with the city to encourage them to invest our money in our engineering and our defence industries and our energy sector? Because it seems that the so-called ethical investment rules are starving up some of our key industries of key investment. And secondly, and tonight's to ask this question, are all of us in this room at risk of losing our banking facilities because of what somebody regards as being our values in conflict with theirs?
Second question first. There was an article in the Times on Monday that said Refinitiv, who are one of the big global credit rating agencies, 49 of the 50 top world's banks use it. So any of you who apply for a new bank account, they will check with Refinitiv that you haven't left behind a £20 million debt in Kuala Lumpur or something like that. So we get why they do it. But the idea that they are now going to, and the Times said this, they're now going to work with UK banks to monitor social media posts of individual customers, that points to a really dystopian, worrying, scary future. But, Stephen, the fight back has begun, right? And on your first point, look, I worked, in the financial services industry for many, many years. Metals was the part of it that I was in. I can tell you that a raft of European regulations that came into UK law actually made, for pension funds in particular, it very, very difficult to invest, for example, in British infrastructure projects, things like the M4 Relief Road, which we so badly need. My bigger worry is that it's now been 7 years since the vote. We haven't made our financial services industry really much more competitive. There was a recent bill passed. It's improved things slightly. Interestingly, some of the changes Andrew Griffith made today couldn't have been made as members of the European Union. So there is some progress, but it's far, far too slow. But ultimately, if you're going to have a thriving equity market, and you mentioned people listing elsewhere, you have a thriving equity market, a thriving insurance market, a thriving money market, thriving commodity markets, you have to have a thriving banking sector. And right at the moment, I've been told by international businessmen that London is now pretty much the worst place to bank in the Western world. So much regulation, so much over-compliance. And, you come to South Wales and talk about the city. Actually, financial services are huge in Cardiff. A lot of people in Cardiff working in financial services. This is the biggest employer in this country. All I can say is there is a lot more to be done. We have not seized the opportunity here that was given us by that Brexit referendum. Small steps in the right direction, but more needed. Your thoughts?
Yes, it's a huge concern. When we've got large numbers of companies, and I'm talking about this because clearly we need to be thinking about our future in terms of engineering, defence, and our energy supply. And our own companies, our own huge companies, are having difficulty financing because of their low share value. Because our money is not being invested by not by all, but some of our institutions and that we're into a vicious circle of decline unless we can arrest that.
If we become more competitive, we become more attractive, more money gets invested. Stephen, I'm going to have to move on, but I thank you for the question. Both questions.
Okay,
Awesome.
thanks.
Louise. Hello.
We have Plan A, so what do we have Plan B? If the Rwanda fails, EU and France aren't going to play ball, we're full, where do we go from here?
Oh, it's very easy. What the Conservative government will do is they'll say what you think. They'll say, isn't it awful? Gosh, how on earth has this been allowed to happen? And somehow think we're going to say, oh, yeah, they're on our side. It's all going to be OK. There is no Plan B. And Rwanda's only a few hundred people anyway. Yeah. It would act as a disincentive, I get that. It would help damage the criminal model, but of itself it's not enough. Look, Australia years ago did it. They turned around the boats. They towed them back to Indonesia. The international community went bonkers. You know what happened? The boats stopped coming. There is no solution here. There is no solution here that will happen without very bold, firm government and accept the opprobrium of the UN, accept the opprobrium of the European Union, etc.
Well, we know what they feel like today, don't we?
We know exactly what they feel like, and Simon Weston may talk about this in just a moment. Thank you very much indeed. And lastly, Piers.
Hello, Nigel. I also have two questions, sorry.
No,
they're quick ones.
One only.
Oh, I've got to pick then.
It
was my birthday recently and I was gifted 3 colours of gin with Farage written. What's your favourite colour to watch the Ashes and will England win the Ashes?
Well, it's actually the white one, the one with the hints of licorice is the one that I like the most. Right. Stunning performance by England today. Absolutely stunning performance, and cricket's becoming very popular again. I was reminded earlier on, it is actually the England and Wales cricket board,
Wales, yeah.
and the Wales gets left out of this too often. Yeah, you know, cricket's great, fantastic, enthralling, like a big game of 5-day chess playing out ahead of you. You know, an England side led by a warrior of a captain. Gosh, I wish our leaders were a bit more like Ben Stokes in many ways, referring to the previous question. And it's great to see cricket, you know, being watched. I wish it was free to view on terrestrial television, and I wish our schools, all of our schools, gave youngsters the opportunity to play this great game. If the weather holds, we will win this game. We'll win this game. The ball that got Root out just ran along the deck. So it's very good news. For those that aren't cricketers, I'm really sorry. It ran along the deck, which must be a good sign for our bowlers. I think we'll be out just after lunchtime tomorrow. We've got to skittle them tomorrow. Otherwise, it's Old Trafford. It rains. It always rains in Old Trafford. But if we can do that, we'll win the Ashes. That's my view.
It'll be a big win if we win.
It'll be a big win if we win. Yeah. Thank you very much indeed. Yes, thank you. Now, in a moment, we're going to have studio guest Simon Weston, a great hero here in South Wales. He'll be joining me in just a moment.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my new show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m, where real people get to meet those in power and hold them to account. Every week, we'll be hearing your views from up and down the country in the real world. Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle.
Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things. We've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Okay, now, Simon Weston joins me here on Talking Points, but first, a bit of breaking news. Simon Jack, the BBC's economics correspondent, editor, he's been busy tweeting. But all he's been tweeting is what Alison Rose has said. There's no apology yet, but I'm still waiting. I won't hold my breath. Please give a huge welcome on Talking Pints to Simon Weston. I should say Simon Weston CBE, shouldn't I?
Well, nice if you want to, but...
You are a very, very well-known figure from South Wales. Rugby, this was your big thing as a lad, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. I suspect 90% of the fellas in here, it was the biggest sport they played in school. My career was over by the time I was 20, so just short of my 21st birthday when I got injured. Never got to realise how good I could have been, you know, whether I'd have gone too much further than I was playing. Played for the Army under-21s and London District and the Guards and Welsh Guards, but what could have come from that, Lord only knows.
And that Welsh team, that 1970s Welsh team, yeah. I mean, it was quite something, wasn't it?
It is, and oddly enough, I've met an awful lot of them since and befriended several of them. They were magical. You know, but it's very difficult to emulate what they did, and the different rules and regulations and the fitness standards and the professionalism and the way they've brought in the defensive work that belongs in rugby league. You know, there's so many disciplines that have been brought into the game, and they've changed it dramatically from what it used to be when I played. But, you know, we'll be right up against it come the World Cup with...
oh, absolutely.
You know, with some of these...
Absolutely, but big part of your culture. Now, you know, we've talked before on this programme about the Falklands and everything that happened, but I do know there's been quite a big inquiry into what happened with the Sir Galahad, and it's had almost no media attention at all. What does that inquiry tell us, Simon?
That mistakes were made, decisions that were made were probably biased in certain circumstances, but the biggest thing that we've been able to garner from it all is that they don't want to release the information. They've released all the other information. There are no national security concerns in any of it. So why they've kept it redacted and sealed, we don't know, apart from the statement they gave, which is they don't want to cause ill ease and concern and cause people discomfort. So basically what they don't want is the truth to come out. Yeah. Because in all the books that these different people have written, they've all had conflicting stories. And what we've been able to get from people still alive, that their stories just don't marry up. And the guy who was in charge of 5 Brigade had to leave Britain because of the abuse he was taking for his own mental health. He had to leave. And so many people have suffered, and professionally and personally they've been...
How angry are you, Simon?
I'm angry to a degree, but I'm more disappointed. These were people who were supposed to be our leaders. They were supposed to make decisions about us and keep us as safe as possible in war, which is so random. We accepted the role our job told us. You know, we went to war, we knew the outcome, that we could get killed. But at the end of the day, you wanted people who were making decisions for the best for everybody, not just a select few that were your preferred units.
Simon, I was keen to get you on to talk about this because, you know, I know this work's been done. I know there is great dissatisfaction amongst many Welsh Guardsmen that I've met and spoken to. First time we've discussed this issue. But it was good to get you on tonight to talk about this because I think you deserve the truth.
That's all we want, is the truth.
I think you above all deserve the truth after what you've been through. And, yeah, let's push government to get the truth. Final thought. The European Union yesterday, in a diplomatic cable, described the Falkland Islands as Les Malvinas. Your response, please, Simon Weston.
Well, it kind of... What I thought this morning when I first heard about it was, always remember today's friend can be tomorrow's enemy. And it just felt like we were getting kicked in the shins for leaving 7 years ago. Whether you agreed with leaving or not is irrelevant now. The islanders are the only people that are relevant, and it's their comfort, their security...
Absolutely.
...and their sleepless nights that have to be taken into account. Just because you want to appease a cabal of nations in South America who have been working tirelessly for so long. The reason Argentina has its problems is because of corruption. Yeah. Massive corruption in that country with raging inflation.
Yeah.
They think by going to the Falklands, which has a settled economy, a very affluent economy, thriving businesses, with nearly 4,000 people.
Simon.
Why go there? Why do it?
Because it's the EU and they don't like us. That's why we voted Brexit. Yeah. Simon Weston, thank you very much. Now, it's time for Bell and Sterling. And I've got to tell you, this is Bell and Sterling's best. Listen very carefully to the words.
You heard it first in the Sun. You heard it last on BBC One. They said there's nothing to see. The parents didn't agree. It's time we stop paying their licence fee. Nigel said on GB News, they're closing down your bank accounts if they don't like your views. They will take all your funds. You won't have any bunts. You're all a bunch of Coutts. Hey, 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 it's Nigel says just how it is. It's time to fight back. Nigel says just as it is. So let's get back on track. 'Cause Nigel's always on the ball. Nigel says...
I get a phone call, we are closing your accounts.
Nigel says...
This is truly and utterly disgusting.
Nigel says...
Are we living in communist China?
He's Nigel Farage!
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Jonathan Vautry, here with your latest GB News weather forecast provided by the Met Office. A lucky few of us have managed to see some sunny spells throughout today, but there are still a few showers lingering on into the evening and into Friday as well, particularly for parts of Northern Ireland, through Scotland as well. Also a few just clearing their way off the far southeast of England as well. In between that, we will start to see some clearer spells developing, and that will allow those temperatures to just slide off into single figures for particularly rural areas, particularly for parts of central Scotland. We could see close to 4 degrees Celsius, so a bit of a chill in the air first thing on Friday morning. That will allow for some sunshine, but there's also going to be the central area from north